As the consensus number one draft pick for the 2025 NBA draft, there's about 6 terrible teams that are frontrunners for Cooper Flagg's signature. While there's always healthy anxiety about a high draft pick going to a bad team, this is usually the practice because the young player gets to have a lot of reps without too much added pressure and time to develop into a star. But with a pick like Cooper Flagg, who has all the tools to be the next face of the league, there are 2 teams on this list that will totally screw up his development, and this would be the last thing the NBA needs. So, the league needs to pull every draft trick in the book, legal or otherwise, and pray to the basketball gods to make sure Cooper Flagg doesn't land in either of these 2 places. The process be damned. The first team we need to hope to God that Cooper Flagg doesn't go to has unfortunately the highest odds to land him, and that is the Utah Jazz. So why the hate towards the Utah Jazz? Why not them? Well, let's be real. Since the Jerry Sloan era, they've struggled to produce any real superstars. So since Darren Williams, who we could hardly call a superstar because of his injury history, Utah hasn't been able to develop a great player in a long time. And yes, part of that is due to being in a smaller market with less overall exposure. That being said, however, they haven't sniffed greatness since Stockton and Malone. And that is a bad look. It's been 30 years, guys. And the previously mentioned Darren Williams, who was the last even close to star caliber player, fell out so bad with Jerry Sloan that Jerry Sloan retired. So, in short, Utah does not have a good track record of developing players. At least not, again, in the last 30 years. That is problem number 1. You need a superstar like Cooper Flagg to be developed. Utah's entire coaching staff has changed since then as well. Problem number 2. If we look at this current roster, it's a hodgepodge of wasted draft talent, players who don't exactly fit a role, and one Jordan Clarkson. Lol. So, Cooper Flagg, if he landed in Utah, would have 0 veteran mentorship and leadership to guide him through the toughest transition he will make in his basketball life. Yes, he would get all his reps, and yes, he would be option number 1, but who would be there to help him develop? Who could realistically be his number 2 every single night? The answer is nobody, because Utah doesn't have the personnel in that locker room, nor do they have other young guys they could pair with Flagg and realistically say, hey, you guys are our superstar tandem for the future. So therefore, Cooper Flagg would be tasked with restoring a crappy team to overachieving heights with no help, a new coaching staff, and a market that nobody cares about. Then, even if he somehow received help or Utah's treasure trove of draft assets turned into something, if that person actually lived up to hype and expectation, they would leave Utah for greener pastures that exist pretty much everywhere else. An exact scenario Utah would be facing with Cooper Flagg once his rookie extension run out. So, in short, Utah has a very high chance of getting him, but if you're Cooper Flagg, his agent, or the NBA as a whole, you do not want this kid going to Utah and have his development screwed up by lack of leadership. But at least in Utah, as we said, he would get all the opportunities in the offense and wouldn't receive a ton of pressure or criticism, especially in the first 2 years. So that's why it's actually better than this team, because if he lands on this absolute dumpster fire of a team that was actually supposed to be a championship contender this year but played so ass that they are actually in the lottery, the NBA will be in serious trouble for a long time. And that team is the Philadelphia Trash Heap 76ers! You ready for this? Markelle Fultz, Jahlil Okafor, Nerlens Noel, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Jared McCain. What do all these players have in common? Oh, they're all super high draft picks that the Sixers have gotten in the last 10 years since they started their god-awful process of tanking to rebuild in the draft. Bruh, most of these guys aren't even in the league anymore. Joel Embiid has played in half of all games total. Jared McCain is injured for the season, and the rest of us are just holding our collective breaths with Tyrese Maxey. Oh, and have we forgotten this is the team that also employs Podcast P, Pandemic P, Ponzi P, whatever name you want to call him. If Cooper Flagg somehow lands here, this will be an absolute disaster and a tragedy. And no, I am not exaggerating. To begin with, there's barely enough mouths to feed in that crappy offense as it stands. Where will they find reps for Cooper Flagg? And if he was to land in Utah, which is the worst case scenario, but say Washington or Brooklyn, this is not going to be a problem. And reps is the fastest way to improvement. Would Cooper Flagg even start in Philadelphia? Because technically he should, but he's gonna have to compete for minutes and results from the get-go. The expectations in Philly are gonna remain sky high, and that's gonna completely hinder his development because he's not gonna get a lot of slack, which he would in any other place. The main quote-unquote benefit that he would get from being in Philly is that he figures to have incredible veteran leadership that will help him develop. But will he actually? Embiid has shown time and time again to not care as a leader. Paul George couldn't lead a pack of rats to a cheese factory. And the team will continue to carry championship expectations while constantly falling short and never meeting them because their leaders A, can't stay healthy, and B, don't perform when needed to. But worst of all, they'll find a way to blame the young guys and their lack of experience or lack of professionalism. That's why there's a graveyard of high draft picks within the Sisters' so-called process. So Cooper Flagg won't get reps, he'll get the promise of leadership but will receive exactly none, and he'll be entering a pressure cooker situation which has already shown to be terrible for new high draft picks. Oh yeah, sign us up. What a good situation that will be. So let's pray that a player with top level superstar potential doesn't land in a place that clips his wings from day one. Please not Utah, but definitely not the Philadelphia moribund 76ers.